You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Well, you just saw my face there briefly for a moment. This is Force 13 Live. And the main feature today, of course, this evening is Typhoon In-fa. Let me just fade up my audio a little bit so you can hear me better. Here it is right now, the latest infrared satellite imagery of the storm. Looking pretty decent with a quite a substantial eye and eye wall building there. Temperature rising inside the eye and that eye wall filling out on the northern side where it was lacking in the last few hours. The storm right now is located southeast of the southernmost Ryukyu Islands, Miyakojima and the Oyama Islands, and it looks like it's going to swipe that area and head towards the northwest. Forecasts are trending northwards for those interests along the coast of China, which is good news for some but bad news for others. Taiwan, the northern part of Taiwan, is looking like most of it will escape hurricane conditions now, typhoon conditions of course, in this part of the world. The storm will make a pretty close pass. But right now, actually let's take a look at that latest visible imagery. Well, it was visible, it's just gone dark there now onto the geo-color. You just caught the last few glimpses of the visibles there, it was looking very good. My name's Nathan Foy, I'm joined by our team today, this evening, local time of course over in Asia, but we're joined by people around the world. We've got Joey, Xbox, Noah and Zenitsu. I don't know what to call you actually, Xbox.
Xbox.
Alright then, there it is.
I mean, it sounds a little weird, but I mean...
Slightly, considering that it's probably not your real name unless there's something very strange going on.
No.
But in any case, there we are anyway. Warnings, of course, across the Ryukyu Islands of Japan. Equivalent to typhoon warnings are in effect for some of those southern Ryukyus and gale advisories for the rest of that island chain up towards southern Kyushu. Interestingly, no storm-related warnings in effect yet for Taiwan or for China, so they're waiting a little bit longer. It is a fairly slow-moving storm as we take a look at the JTWC forecast. There it is. There's still quite a while before it turns towards the northwest as it moves over those islands. We're talking tomorrow evening UTC when it makes its closest pass to Miyakojima. So that is going to be, I lose track of even what day we're on these days, Friday morning local time is when you would expect the closest pass, and when that's considered, despite that, it's pretty close already. So there's a lot to discuss regarding this this evening, and of course we'll have coverage probably throughout. Start your message with Force 13 all in text during our hour of coverage today. We'll have plenty of other videos coming out later on. Actually, we've got an update coming out in 2 hours from now as well. But let's open the floor then. Let's first speak to Joey. You're showing us a scene out there right now in Japan.
Yeah, so this is from Naha Airport. We were trying to find webcams in the Ryukyu Islands, but it was quite difficult to do so. What you can see here is that it's raining. It's not very pleasant conditions. It's very difficult to determine weather conditions on this webcam because it's night, and as well there aren't many objects that you'd be able to sort of depict how strong the winds are there. But what we can see is on the ground you may be able to see a bit of surface water spray indicating some quite strong gusts of winds here and now. So that's what we're seeing on this certain webcam.
So that's on Okinawa right now, and just getting the latest JWC thing. They should be well within tropical storm conditions. So I would imagine that they're getting winds of lower tropical storm force gusting to mid or even high tropical storm force winds. It is hard to tell what exactly is going on the ground there, but that's one viewpoint. Let's take it back to one of the images. Also, just to note, Cempaka weakening over southern China. I think we've still got it as a tropical storm. I heard, I've not had much time to check today, but I've heard that it's officially down to a depression. Is it at this point?
I think I heard someone say it was officially a depression, but I think we still have it as a tropical storm, I think.
We do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just have to go and check that one. But obviously it made landfall yesterday. JTWC still have it. Oh no, they have it as depression now, yes. So that's just happened recently. They actually expect it to become a brief tropical storm again, ironically, over Hainan Island. And then weaken again. So that's very interesting, moving fast. But the main focus, of course, is this storm now. In-fa high-end category 2 is what we have on our analysis. And just to dissect the JTWC forecast a little bit more here, very large wind fields. You know, the orange circular outlines the radials there. Red. Detailing the tropical storm wind area, and that remains very large right through day 4 towards day 5 when it starts to shrink as it approaches the coast of China. Very, very uncertain as to what will happen towards that final landfall, because models are trending northwards still, and it could really still be a very powerful typhoon by the time it gets there, with a very large wind field. JTWC there showing 85 knots on that last icon before the landfall, and showing a peak wind speed as it passes Miyakojima of 105 knots, which would be 120 miles per hour. Given that they and we are putting it at 110 right now, Noah, what do you think of the storm's intensification phase, and do you think it could exceed that at all, considering that we weren't necessarily expecting it to get this far earlier on?
Well, the intensification phase has really been a gradual thing. What you would expect with such a large eye. I don't even know how large the eye is. Does anyone know this?
It doesn't look huge, honestly. I'll just get a very quick measurement. As far as eyes go, it's fair. It's on the larger side, but it's not huge. It's about 35 miles.
Okay, yeah, that's about what I expected. So yeah, the intensification phase has been pretty gradual. The storm generally fights with dry air intrusions. What you can see on the current imagery, you have this streaky bands of lower cloud tops going into the core. That's stable or dry air punching into the core, and the storm, the eye has generally cleared out over the night, with sporadic convective bursts around the center. Generally not the best organized storm, but as I said, it's doing its gradual thing. Dry air intrusions. These dry air intrusions are probably gonna hold the intensity at some level. It's unlikely that we have an explosive intensification phase with this storm. It's likely to gradually intensify or stay at its current intensity pretty much until it reaches the islands in Japan and further.
Now here's a close-up of the visible / infrared, of course, as it's gotten dark there now. You can make out the islands and just how close it is to those southern islands, southern Ryukyu Islands. So considering the eye is about 35 miles wide, you can quite easily surmise that it's about, just getting an actual calculation, 93 miles there from Miyakojima, which is the right-hand island. And to think that it will pass in between that island and the one on the left, which is Ishigaki, and that's going to be in a day and a half. So it's not going to move very quickly at all. And some slow intensification, more of that on the way by the looks of things. Noah, we saw the very early imagery on our stream of the northern eye wall closing up.
Yeah.
So that looks like a path strengthening further perhaps now.
Well, it's always a good sign when the storm wraps around convection to the upshear side where there hasn't been. So that's nearly always a sure sign of intensification. But as I said, gradual intensification. It's not like the storm is exploding in any way. When you have such a large eye and such a relatively dry outer environment, likely that the storm is gonna very gradually intensify, have this dry air intrusions, mix them slowly out, and then gain intensity gradually, slowly. Not when you have a small eye, very moist environment where your storm is just gonna explode. That's not the case.
Okay, and from what I hear, I don't know who's been calculating this or has been close to the calculations, but a CDPS Stage 7 right now.
Yeah, I think that's mostly from the expected rainfall in especially China, which, if what I heard is correct, are pretty high. Actually,
Yeah,
gonna take a look at the projected rainfall right now.
There's already flooding issues in China right now, by the way.
yeah, I was
Oh.
about to mention that.
So, until when one's gonna make landfall? Oh, so Nathan, should I go through the accumulated rainfall of the entire Euro run?
Yeah, I mean, we need to take a look at all the. We've got time to look
Oh
at all the
wow,
models today. Yeah.
that's a lot. That's here in. Let me see where the city is. That it's around Zhoushan, just south of Shanghai. The Euro depicts 934 millimeters of rain
Oh
at the
my
maximum,
Oh my.
with a very large area reaching from Shanghai all the way down to Taizu, with
this-
over 500 millimeters of rain, which would be 20 inches.
This is what we're saying about the uncertainty on this forecast cone from the JTWC, and some models, and I imagine I haven't actually seen the ECMWF, but some models have been saying recently, GFS last night, that the storm would literally be stalling along the coast of China, just south of Shanghai, near Taizu, I believe. And that is never a good situation.
Yeah, the GFS has basically the same as the Euro, just south of Shanghai. Totals up to 35 inches. The GM Canadian model has much less, with only maximum totals of that would be around 11 to 12 inches, just south of the Australian model. I actually wait. I have to calculate this. It has 2,876 millimeters at a
What?
maximum. Within a 10-day span.
Wow.
So what would 2,876 be in inches?
Goodness me. We must be talking about 2,800.
That would be
It's over 100
that
inches.
2,000
yeah,
what?
that would be around 115, I reckon.
Yeah, about 110 inches.
Yep.
So yeah,
Well, that's not good.
scary rainfall forecast here.
We are here to take questions whilst we're on the air today as well, whilst we gawk at this thing. And as you can see, all of the southern Ryukyu Islands already underneath the influence of this storm, even though it's a day and a half away from its closest pass. A question there. It does look like, well, it's actually a statement. It does look like the second peak of Surigi at Category 4, but In-fa's a Category 2. I don't know if you want to compare this storm to that in terms of its structure or what, but
I would rather disagree. The convection is rather west-sided instead of actually being more around this, more stable around the center, from what I know, in Sergei.
I have absolutely no idea where this comparison comes from, so I would generally discount any comparison to Surrogate with In-fa. In-fa is a generally pretty disorganized storm if you actually look at it, with these dry air intrusions and the pretty large eye and only periodic convective bursts. And Surrogate was in a whole different league of intense Category 5.
although they were talking about the second peak.
Yeah, but still, Surrogate's second peak was had a much more consolidated, better looking CDO. This is this is fluctuating pretty drastically between there you can see dry air intrusions and the northern eye wall opens up, and then we have another convective burst that wraps around. So there's no comparison.
The western side is lacking a little bit of or like, it's, well, like the western eye wall is just not as strong as all the other eye walls.
I'm
Like,
gonna
as you
get
can see on my
the
imagery, you can definitely see how the western eye wall is a lot weaker. I could slow down this imagery for a bit.
just waiting to get some rapid scan up on my screen. Actually, here it is, showing the storm's properties in the last in the last hour or so. There is a weakness on the western side and probably on the northern side. Maybe more than that.
I would say that the southern side is currently the best in terms of colder cloud tops.
Yeah,
But it does look rather like a storm would at this latitude. It's quite high latitude, really, for
Yeah.
a strong
20
typhoon.
almost exactly 24 degrees north.
Oh well.
So it's outside of the traditional tropical zone. Of course, storms do that all the time. It tends to be ones that form in the deep tropics that become particularly strong and particularly good looking as well. It's usually the subtropical storm where they form from less deep tropical zones that have this kind of appearance, really, and much larger as well, generally, but this has always been huge, hasn't it?
Yeah, and also I wanted to point out that still with this appearance doesn't come from low sea surface temperatures.
No.
Sea surface temperatures are around 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, so very warm for this storm. It's that the size of the storm, which is very large, it spans from 22 degrees north, with its central dense overcast all the way to around 28 degrees north. So that's already three times as large as already at least 3 times as large as Felicia was in its whole entire
We're always
entire
comparing
size.
Felicia here.
And when you have such a large storm within a dry environment, there's always the danger for the storm to get dry air within its core. And this is a pretty classic example. It can consolidate as much convection to keep the dry air out of its core. That's why it looks so lackluster with the convection and dry air intrusions and breaks in the eye wall all the time, which is pretty apparent on the loop that Xbox is showing.
Yep,
I
and there you
could
can see.
slow
How long
this
does
down
that
a
loop run for? There must be quite a few
That's
hours
a
there.
yeah, that's a 10-hour loop. I could also extend it to around 16 hours or something. It's just gonna overload my computer though, so better not.
A question there from Caleb. How large is In-fa right now? And a few different ways to measure that.
Well, in terms of degrees, we just had mentioned it's like 6 degrees. No. What am I saying? Uh, 6 latitudes.
So if you talk about
No, okay.
the core of it, it's about 135 miles in diameter. And then you've got the inner part of the storm's influence, which is basically what's on my screen, a little bit beyond. I would say that's about 600 miles at the largest point. And then you've got the monsoonal stuff and all that, all that debris that's attached to the storm. You could argue that that extends over 2,000 miles out east over the western Pacific and is also influencing the heavy rainfall currently in the Philippines.
Yeah, it's connected to a monsoon trough to its south, so that is bringing the intense rainfall over the Philippines. Does somebody know the radius of the outermost closed isobar? That's my favorite way of measuring the size of a tropical storm or cyclone.
No, I don't have that data with me right now. I'll just have a
Okay.
little look at what was initialized on the model run.
That's probably a thing Kenneth would know.
Well, where's Kenneth?
On the model run initialization this morning, the outermost isobar extends from basically from the northeastern tip of the Philippines to Amami Island, which is 815 miles. But it's
Wow.
wider
Oh.
lengthways east to west, so we're probably talking about 1,000 miles at the widest point.
Wow, if we confirm that radius of outermost closed isobar, I reckon that would be one of the largest. I think Tip had something like 1,200 miles.
I know that Tip's 1,000 millibar isobar, which wasn't the outermost closed one, but the 1,000 one was 800 miles. Let's just see what the model says regarding that. I don't. Oh, it'll be close. No, it's not going to be as much as that. Nearly. Can't give you an actual number. I'm just trying to figure it out here. Number crunching over here. At its widest point, probably something around 700 miles is the 1,000 millibar isobar.
That's a huge storm.
So let's talk about impacts to land then. This storm is going to be passing over the southern Ryukyu Islands in the next few days. You know, when you look at the satellite imagery, it looks like it will get there very soon, but the forecast shows that it will stall a little bit and it will take a day and a half to 2 days to get through the islands. Rainfall amounts there are probably going to be very high too.
Yeah, what I'm seeing currently on the Euro is up to 400 or 500 millimeters. So 10 to 20 up to 20 inches is definitely possible. The GFS shows even possible much higher totals, which is probably more on the realistic side because it shows a significant rainfall maximum out of sea where the storm is right now, crawling at a slow pace. It shows up to 700 millimeters of rain on these islands. So you could have up to 25 inches of rain and major typhoon force winds associated with the storm, and also very rough seas because it's a very large storm. gonna have dangerous, life-threatening rip currents well ahead of the arrival of the typhoon, or of the innermost part of the typhoon.
I'd be surprised if rip currents aren't already in full flow on the east coast of China there.
Yeah, that's probably likely considering how large the storm is.
And there again is the wide shot, just showing what the whole weather pattern's looking like in the Western Pacific, and that monsoonal area enormous, extending to the east, and then we have that eastern extent of it. Another storm could form out of that next.
I think I heard that it would form due to the outflow of In-fa, with the help of the outflow.
Well, it's somewhere
Something
over
like
there
that.
that we're looking at a storm forming, and that could go on to affect the east coast of Japan down the line. That's about 6 days from now, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's I think what you're talking about is a area of interest we marked as 40-60, so 60%
That's
chance
the
of
one.
forming within the next 5 days.
That's the one. So something else to look out for. And then you can see the whole influence from this storm, massive cloud cover over the Philippines. We're hearing a lot of rain out there right now. Cempaka is sort of descending into obscurity over there on the western side in the Gulf of Tonkin right now.
Yeah, there's really nothing much left of it. I looking at the imagery, I really can't tell where the center would be. I know it's somewhere inland, but it's really disorganized and is probably in the process of dying over the very mountainous terrain in southern China.
Well, here is
Although I
some
am certain.
imagery. I'm not sure if this is current right now. I think it is. Showing where it is, or something to that effect. Who knows, is the answer to that. Go ahead.
Well, I can't really believe that this could strengthen right over the Hainan Peninsula or like the island itself. It just kind of sounds outlandish, but well, we'll have to see, I guess.
Soon
Yeah.
we'll be having a look at the GFS model run visualizations. So we'll be doing that for a while. But do send in your questions. Start your message with Force 13 all in text whilst we're on our stream for this hour. There's another video update which Xbox is doing in just over an hour. And we'll probably have more updates. Well, we will have more updates first thing in the morning with another storm update, and then probably another live stream a little bit later on as well, because this is going to go on for a few days here. We've been, we look at the forecast cone, and that goes on. That JTWC cone shows 5 days ahead, and still alive as a depression on day 5 there. And landfall in China not for another 3 days. So that's going to last for quite some time. Let's see if anything's different on what Joey's showing us right now. Oh, you're showing us somewhere else.
Yeah, this is. I'm not sure the area of Okinawa this is, but somewhere called Kokusarai Street. And you can obviously see that conditions are deteriorating. It is quite windy. It has been raining for quite some time already over this island. And even before In-fa, they were getting some hefty rainfall amounts. A few thunderstorms passed through the islands, and so that's just the rainfall from In-fa is just going to be falling onto saturated ground, which would just make the flooding issues worse and the accumulations of rainfall a lot higher than they would be if if the ground wasn't saturated, for example.
Now, they probably had mid to strong tropical storm force winds earlier in the day. Those winds are going to die down as the storm moves away a little bit, but given the storm size, those winds will get back up again as the storm powers off to the northwest. We're looking at Friday daytime into the evening. Those winds will come back up towards at least typhoon wind gusts nearly. So that area needs to continue to monitor the situation closely.
Yeah, I'm actually really concerned about the possibility of the storm stalling near the coast of China, because we have the Euro, of course, showing a large area just south of Shanghai in this river delta. Large area of over 500 millimeters of rain, and we have some models that have rain peaks up to 2,800 millimeters of rain. So that could be, and if China is already suffering from flooding issues, those rains are gonna fall on saturated ground, and if those model ones materialize, we're probably seeing serious and intense flooding issues.
Alright, Zenitsu's showing us what's going on over there in the Philippines in association with these, possibly with both of these storms, but certainly In-fa. I don't know if you want to offer a comment on what we're seeing there with all that rainfall.
We also have a question. Will that turn to the northeast of In-fa weaken the southwest monsoon in the Philippines?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we have you now.
Yes.
All right. So basically, large amounts of rainfall is occurring across the western portions of Luzon mainly. Over here in Mandaluyong, it's also raining heavily. We're going to expect this rainfall as long as In-fa is within range to um enhance the southwest monsoon. Pagasa has released its weather advisory earlier, and it's expecting multiple areas across Luzon to experience this weather. As you can see with these pink colors, those signify heavy rainfall, and at the moment we have yellow rainfall warnings over Metro Manila.
Oh, you're getting hit of that, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Large amounts of rain by the looks of things.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the areas that this storm is indirectly affecting.
I'm not sure if it's in, okay, it's not within reach of the radar.
So that's the situation there right now. In a moment, we'll take a look at the models. Did you want to say something?
Yeah. Someone asked if if In-fa moved further northwest, could that weaken the southwest monsoon in the Philippines?
Possibly. But by the looks of things, the track forecast is very uncertain. So maybe it could go a bit a bit southward, and maybe impact Taiwan, or maybe it keeps going north.
Would a southward trend lead to more rainfall in the Philippines? Do you know anything about that?
It could. Also, if it does go more southward, we could be expecting signal number 1 over Batanes and the Babuyan Islands.
Wow. Alright, ready with the models here, the GFS at least, showing you what the situation is right now. So you can see the extent of tropical storm force winds. Now it's quite hard to see, so I'm just going to mark some of these islands. That there is the 2 islands of the Yayama group. Miyakojima is here, just on the edge of typhoon conditions at the initialization of the model run. This is Okinawa, just in mid-tropical storm conditions there by the looks of things. And up here is the coastline of Kyushu, which is still on the edge of tropical storm force winds, actually, is the size of this storm. This, of course, is Taiwan, the east coast of China. So we're looking at all of these features as we watch the storm progress over the next few days. So there it is, stalling pretty much to begin with, but intensifying as it does so. GFS wants the storm to be moving through those islands. There it is, making its closest pass. Let's just see exactly where that is. Even I can't make out the islands at this point, but it's very close to them, somewhere within all of that. Miyakojima would be on the northeastern side, somewhere in here, somewhere around there. The other two islands would be, getting my buttons mixed up, somewhere through here. Both of those would be getting significant typhoon conditions, around 120 miles per hour sustained according to this model, which is pretty much what the JTWC is saying. And look how large the wind field is as well. In fact, tropical storm force winds extending all the way to the northern islands of the Philippines off Luzon. So massive tropical storm force wind field. Then it proceeds to the northwest, huge, takes up the whole East China Sea, category 2 at least at that point, and there it is moving into land, and then weakens substantially, but is still there, and what's left of it moves over Shanghai around the 28th of July, and then up towards the Korean Peninsula, and then on, well, then it goes away completely. But a huge broad system, and that is going to deliver widespread damage and a lot of rain, which we'll get
You
to.
can also see that other system that's falling behind.
Yep, so let's take a look at that one. So you'll see emerging out of all this, big long tail there of a big system that's trying to develop. Doesn't look that great there, honestly, but it does have strong winds, and there it is, probably not fully tropical, but there it is with borderline typhoon winds, and that goes into Japan there, nearly as a typhoon, and skirts the east coast. Another very large system as well. And just to take a quick look beyond that scope, just into the long range, give you any idea of what might be on the way, well as that. Good lord, what a mess that is. So
Wait,
we'll get to that another time.
I think I saw something in the Bay of Bengal.
Yes, there is also a few things going on in the Bay of Bengal as well. Look at that. That's apparently another cyclone it's developing, but the GFS does this for fun. We know that at this time of year it's very, very unlikely that that'll actually materialise. If I'm not mistaken, there's two that try to do it. There's the first one, and then the second one there that actually is a tropical storm on the GFS. I doubt that will happen. Right, so let's get to the rainfall. And we'll just get, it takes a very long time to build the animation, so we'll just get to the end of the 7-day period. I'm just trying to get to that right now. It's hard to read from this angle. Go ahead.
Pagasta has issued orange warning level for Occidental Mindoro.
Yeah, well, look at it. First of all, on the model run, in the next 7 days, Mindoro from this point onwards, some of it will be getting 20 inches of rain there. Parts of western Luzon, the coast of it, 19, 20 inches generally. Eastern side remaining fairly dry. And then you can see the rainfall from this typhoon. Inside the typhoon there, 40 inches, 42 inches from the GFS model there. And that's probably at the low end. Over some of those islands, over Ishigaki, I believe that one is 25 inches. Miyakojima 21. Parts of Taiwan will get lots of rainfall too. The northern part there over the mountains, 12 to 13 inches. That is about, I think that's about 3 to 400 millimeters. Up towards the coast of China though, look at all of this. 24 inches, 25, 30 there, 32. Widespread amounts above 16 inches. And if you, well, let's see, 20 inches, what's that in millimeters? That would be a lot. I think that's 500 or so. So large
Yeah, that's
areas,
500.
large
That's
areas
exactly.
above 500 millimeters of rain. The colours say it all, really. That would be a big disaster in that area, most likely.
Yeah. Nathan, if the camera is good, I wanted to show the Euro run. Wanted to dissect the upper level environment, the steering currents of the storm a bit, and why it stalls and how it stalls.
Yep, let's take a look at this.
Okay, are you showing it now?
Yep, we have it.
Okay, so that's a current analysis. We have the storm here. Have a big ridge to its north, steering it slowly towards the west-northwest. When you go out 48 hours, the ridge gets a bit weaker. It starts to steer a bit further towards the northwest, and in 96 hours, it moves inland over China. This trough builds up, and we have another trough. And this here is trying to steer it southward. This is trying to steer it northward. And the steering currents cancel out, and the storm. A look at this position. It pretty much stalls out for several days inland of China. It moves in and just stays at the same position for 1, 2, 3, 4 days and drops huge amounts of rain. It even connects with this trough, so even stronger, slow, even more canceling out of the steering currents. Two troughs, one is trying to steer southward, one is trying to steer poleward. The net effect is 0, so it doesn't move at all. And at the end of the forecast period, this big ridge builds again, and
So
is
it gets shunted
slowly...
west there. Oh my goodness, that's towards the area that has been in the news just in the last day or two that's had this big flooding in China. I forget the name of the area.
Yeah, and then this large area of ridging builds up again, and it's slowly steering westward. And you can see from that's 10 days out, hour 240 from hour 96, which is here, all the way to hour 240. It doesn't really move that much. And that's if this is gonna materialize, that would be a major flooding disaster for the it's just south of the Shanghai region in China. That would be a very major flooding disaster. I don't even know a time where we had such high rainfall totals forecasted in this area.
Not in recent times. I'm pretty sure it would have happened many decades ago, but you think about, you know,
Nina, 1975.
oh gosh, yeah, well, of course, that was a historic event. You just wonder about how areas might have been more developed than it was back then as well, and how that might contribute to any issues.
Mm-hmm.
But there we have it. That's a grim prospect, and we've got to prepare for that. That's over 3 days away before it reaches the east coast of China, most likely. In the most immediate future, the storm is being dealt with by the southernmost islands of Japan. Now, someone asked in the comments section a moment ago, to show what the Atlantic's showing for the next few days. I can tell you without showing you, it doesn't look very interesting. There is a area of interest that National Hurricane Center have marked, and I'm sure it'll find a way to form somehow in the Western Atlantic. So we'll cover that when it happens.
Yeah. The Atlantic, currently we have sinking air in the Atlantic, so I wouldn't expect deep tropical or storms in the deep tropics in general for the next 1 or 2 weeks. So we are in a pretty unfavorable subseasonal variation of the Atlantic, which of course doesn't mean that you can't get the surprise subtropical storms when you have a trough over the of the very western Atlantic. That's a typical pattern that allows for these storms that are like, for example, what we had earlier this year, Bill.
After last year, people will be expecting storms every week, but that's not how it works in the Atlantic. And quiet periods in July into early August are pretty common. We have some questions. Again, what's the CDPS for In-fa? Currently a stage 7, apparently. I've not gotten into the fine details of all that, and I don't think anyone in our room right now has. Do you have any info on that?
I believe
No,
the
I'm just going
CDPS
by.
graphic is in the live output.
I'm
What
just
was
going
that?
in.
I believe the CDPS graphic is in live output.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was posted last night actually.
Yeah.
A stage 7, and that's been out for about 12 hours actually. Takitomi Island, Okinawa, stage 7.
I assume it's a little old. We might have to calculate that again.
We probably will, but it's, as far as we know, it's been stage 7 for a while.
Last night, actually.
But nothing's really changed since last night because they were expecting landfall intensity being 100 knots. Now we're expecting 105, so that's probably actually a slight increase. Rainfall estimates have stayed around the same for the Japanese islands, so I reckon it would still be a CDPS stage 7. And that's a 10-tiered scale to assess the potential for damage and destruction from tropical cyclones. It measures not just the wind, but the rainfall factor and the size of the storm's wind field to get a better representation of how big of an event that we're dealing with. 7 out of 10 is pretty big. There are more questions. What's the chances of a Category 4 and or Super Typhoon status? Well, the pressure's expected to go down. GFS still holding on with the lower 930s peak projection, currently rated at 952. I think it might get there. What would it mean though? Probably a mid to high end Category 3. Would you agree?
Yeah. Storm is just very large, and you have a deep pressure for not even that high of a wind. If I think it has a small chance to reach Category 4 status if it really mixes out a lot of the dry air in its outer environment. To Super Typhoon status, I honestly don't see how it gets there. Yeah.
Storms have done it before north of those islands. It's rare, but it has happened. It's very unlikely.
With a 35 with a 35-mile eye, I don't know. I wouldn't count on it.
No. Latest rapid scan imagery showing right now, perhaps a slight shrinkage of the eye there, just slightly. Still a clear weakness on the southwestern side as it swivels around the eye there, but convection quite deep on the southern side and a little bit on the eastern. North looks a little flaky as well, so I would reckon that there's still at least 2 gaps in that eye wall.
Yeah. Two significant areas of dry air intrusion are apparent. One in the southwest, where you can see the tongue of very light cloud tops just southwest of the deepest convection, and one that is kind of reaching into the northeastern quadrant. That's two areas of dry or stable air, which is currently fighting the unstable environment the TC or tropical cyclone needs to create to fire more convection.
And do you think this will hamper the storm for its whole duration?
Well, it's certainly likely that the storm will, throughout its life, fight the dry air and has to fight with even significant dry air intrusion. But I don't see how this storm is not gradually intensifying, so it isn't the biggest factor.
Yeah, a question as well from Taylor there. What's the chance of a La Nina in September, October time?
So we recently have been issued a La Nina watch, so
Oh, I didn't know about
the
that.
the chances for La Nina are up. I don't know if it's likely to happen by September because the Enzo region has been generally warming quite a bit from the negative peak in 2020, but certainly later in the year, it's very likely that we're gonna see a La Nina, and there are many things pointing to it. One thing is that the Atlantic is generally warm, and the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific is generally warm, which means rising air on both of these sides, which means big sinking air in the Eastern Pacific or Central Pacific, which is gonna increase the trade winds, which is in turn gonna cool the Enzo region, and sea surface temperature patterns in general don't look unfavorable for the formation of a La Nina, especially with those cold temperatures south of the Enzo region and between Hawaii and Baja California. This cold tongue which has been there the entire year. Those are typical second year La Nina patterns that show up.
Yeah, that's true. Let's take a look back at some more imagery there. There's a visible from Xbox over the last quite a while. Geocolor actually. Very good visual appearance during the day earlier. Of course, everyone goes for the visible looks, but it's what the inside structure of the infrared and microwave and radar is all about that really tells you where we're at with the storm. And come to think of it, I've overlooked this for the whole stream actually. There should be radar for that area from Japan, right?
Yeah, but there apparently is. I actually have radar scope open, but the core of the storm is exactly obscured by some tall object on the island, some mountain or some radio tower or so. That's why we can't see anything in the core, and it's all obscured by this radio tower or mountain
You
that
gotta
is
be
in the
kidding
way.
me.
No, I can send you a screenshot on how it looks.
Oh my god.
Wait a second. It's gonna come in our live output.
I'm just getting to look myself. Hold on a minute. I need to see this. That's
There it is.
There's no way.
Um, Infa's appearing on Taiwan radar now.
okay? You're looking at Cadena there. I've actually got a better view here from not sure not sure what the radar site is, but there is a better view. I'm going to, in fact, I'm going to send this over to you so that you can get that and show it to us.
Wait, I'm gonna screen it. If this Taiwan radar decides to load.
Well, it would be very nice to have better radar that doesn't have a big thing in the way.
Okay, wait, let me just screen share.
All right, so
Oh, and it decided to flop as soon as I do that.
so this is the current
Uh,
situation right now. This storm currently at 110 miles per hour, sustained winds with higher gusts, central pressure around 952 millibars. This storm is intensifying gradually and is probably going to reach Category 3 status maybe by morning.
Hold up, it's loading.
Zenitsu's getting onto the Taiwanese radar as well here. But everything over there is running slow. Oh, there, okay. You've got the edge of the storm on the Taiwanese radar. There it is. So that just gives you the tiniest indication of what you could expect on those islands. Well, the Ishigaki isn't in for much at the moment, but Miyakojima is in a yellow zone there.
Let me see if I can play this in a loop. Okay, nothing happened apparently.
Well, we get the idea. I think you've got to click one of those buttons on the dynamic part.
Yeah. It's loading.
Well, that'll take some time.
I'm just gonna check if I have coke in the ref.
So to reiterate, this storm, very large, and just to look at that forecast cone again, it'll probably take 1.5 days until it passes Miyakojima to the west, and it will probably be a major typhoon by that point of 105 knots, 120 miles per hour, and then shoot up towards the northwest and possibly stall off the coast of China. It could deliver over 600 millimeters of rain to parts of the southern Ryukyu Islands and widespread 600 millimeters to the east coast of China and 300 millimeters possibly widespread over parts of northern Taiwan.
Let me try. Okay, never mind. We're just gonna go to 3 hours because it loads faster.
Okay, well, that I don't think we'll make that on before the end of the broadcast. But basically, the satellite was the radar was showing the storm edging towards the coast of towards the southern Japanese islands, towards Taiwan's radar zone. But there we have it. We're gonna probably go away now and be back with more coverage in about 12 hours' time. That would be 8 a.m. Japan.
No, that.
Well,
okay,
yeah, I know
yeah.
it's 9 now, but we'll be back at 8 a.m. For more coverage later on today, and we'll have a storm update on this, a much more briefer, condensed update for our YouTube channel and social media in about an hour, and probably more to come in the evening. Any final comments from our team right now?
Well, yeah, I just want to reiterate everything that has been said in the stream. We have a dangerous, large tropical cyclone, which is going to make landfall somewhere in the southern Ryukyu Islands, and then it's going to be a major rainfall threat for China, as it's going to stall out inland over China and drop widespread over 20 inches of rain, with local areas of up to 30 and 40 inches possible, which is probably gonna be a major flooding catastrophe if those numbers are gonna actually occur.
Okay, so yes.
Also, the threat of the southwest monsoon should not be ignored, and people in the Philippines should seek higher ground if floods are approaching your home, and always listen to Pagasa's heavy rainfall warnings.
500 millimeters possible there on the western coast of the Luzon region, including Mindoro in particular. That's it from us for now. We'll be back again soon with more updates. Follow us on social media with the very latest on this storm and everything else around the world. And of course, you can chat in real time with our whole community on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13. That's all from us now, though. We'll be back again in about 11 hours with our next live stream.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Gotta cut in just now as well, just to report that the Force 13 analysis team has upgraded INFA to 115 miles per hour category 3. That's the latest information just as we finish off this stream. Have a good evening. We'll be back with more information on INFA over the coming days.